everybody, welcome back to Marking Ariana Free. It's Sunday, which means a new video, and yes, it's finally here. I am going to be ranking the seasons of The Next Step. Literally, this video has been requested for probably like maybe a full year that I've had this channel, but basically I've put it off for so long because it's hard to actually think of every single thing I like and dislike from each season and not just be completely subjective and just be like, yeah, I don't like that, so it's going at the bottom. I think I've already spent about an hour, maybe more, really just reading through the synopsises of all seasons, looking at the trailers, looking at photos just to jog my memory, looking at the character lists and really just evaluating what I like and what I don't like. And yeah, today I'm going to be giving you a pretty thorough ranking of the seasons. I've sorted out some pros and cons, so good things about the season and bad things about the season, and I've really tried to be objective about them. I haven't just used my opinion. So we're going to be going on to tier maker because I've actually made my own tier list. I was sure there was a seasons one, but I checked yesterday and it's gone. So I've made my own, but I am going to be deleting it after this video because I've had to make it with my Twitter, and it's my personal Twitter and I don't want people following me on Twitter. So as you can see from this tier list, our top category is called best and our bottom category is called worst, and then in between is just like all the different places, and we're going to be rating season 7 included, but obviously it will just be season 7 so far. So I'm literally going to work from best to worst. So in top position, I'm starting it off, and season 1 is going in first place. And let me give you reasons why. So let's start with our pros of season 1. And overall, this season was a very natural and realistic season. Teenagers actually acted like teenagers, and the storylines, the plots all seemed like they could be in real life in some way. They also didn't seem like they were at the next step every single day and every single hour, even though there were some inconsistencies, like when Daniel, I think, said that they were kept way after 12 at night by Emily. Like, realistically, that wouldn't happen. But the dancers seemed to go to school. Like, we saw them in school, we saw them struggling with school, we saw them going off and arriving to the studio all at different times. They weren't just already there, you know? One big thing about season 1 was that all the characters actually felt relevant. It didn't feel like there was a few main characters and the rest were just background characters. Everyone pretty much had a little bit of a storyline, or at least some prominence on the show. You had Jiley, you had West and Seeds, Chloe and her job, Emily and the E-Girls, Michelle wanting to be dance captain and trying to make her way in the studio. We had Daniel and his injury. Everyone had some sort of relevance to the show, and it didn't just seem like some characters were favoured over others, which is evident in some seasons, and I'll get onto that later. Kate and Chris were also very involved in the dancers' lives, and I enjoyed this. Like, they seemed like adults and they seemed like they were dance teachers, choreographers, studio heads. They actually seemed like they were in their role. One thing that we notice in later seasons is that it's mostly just about the dancers, and it seems like the dancers pretty much dictate what happens in the studio, and there's not a lot of adult influence. So I liked in season 1 how the dancers were the dancers and ultimately they were overruled by Kate and Chris. It also seemed like a really nice family at TNS, probably because everyone had a personality and a storyline and they all were friends and everyone mixed with everybody. It does become very cliquey as the seasons go on, like there's more little groups compared to just A-Ship hanging out as a troupe, and in season 1 everyone was friends with everyone. And the final pro that I have for season 1 is that we had a lot of different locations. It wasn't just limited to the studio. We were shown Elite Studio, the beach, the mall, we had school, we had the dance battle with Seeds out in the open. Like, it didn't get boring because the characters were constantly in different places. Oh, we also had James and Riley out on the town, like they caught the bus, things like that. I would have liked to see that a lot more in the later seasons. So then we move on to the cons of season 1, and this is the reason that it's in the best, because I can't think of any. There's obviously episodes that I don't really care for much or I find boring, but that's just literally my personal preference. In terms of how it's filmed and the plot and the drama and everything like that, I can't fault it. I think there's a great amount of everything. Everyone gets a decent amount of screen time. There's not just one person dominating the whole plot. It didn't go on for too long. It wasn't too short. So yeah, overall 10 out of 10 for season 1. So in second place we then have season 3, in my opinion. And I've put season 3 second because I think the dancers were at their peak ability. We had some really, really great dances from this season, really great solos, and everyone seemed very confident in themselves. We also saw a good mixture of B Troop, J Troop and A Troop actually dancing. We had things like Riley having trust issues and not being able to relax very much. We had James deciding whether he wanted to dance or be with the band. We had Amanda having to really earn her respect back from the team. Michelle's parents going through a divorce. It was just a good mixture of all different things, and they were still relatable to teenagers, but they weren't as soft as like, oh, I'm failing at school. It was more like, my parents are going through a divorce, I don't know what to do, I don't know where I'm going to live. Like, you know, it just heightened a little bit, and it grew as the audience grew up, and I appreciated that. This also meant that there wasn't just one plot throughout, like one pivotal thing that the season was based on. It really like frequently changed on who it was focused on and what they were going through. Another thing that I really liked was how it started to establish the dancers' futures. So obviously we had James deciding whether to go dance or the band. We had Chloe going to auditions and eventually joining the ballet company. Emily obviously couldn't dance this season, so she had to really think about what she wanted as a dancer, and I really liked seeing the dancers grow up, and I think season 3 really ended on a high note because we had hope for the future of the dancers and that they'd be successful, and obviously they'd just come off an internationals win, so it wasn't, yeah, season 3 just ended on a high overall. One con I've got is that Max didn't get much of a storyline this season. He just had these one-off lines that were quite funny, but there was never anything really about his personality. One big thing about season 3 that I also didn't like, and you probably can guess what it is, was that Margie, I don't even know how to describe Margie. Margie disappeared into glitter, into the atmosphere. And I don't like to keep going on about the same issues because obviously it gets boring. Like, it gets boring for me to say, so it probably gets boring to watch. But I just don't understand why that was made as a decision, because obviously up until then the next step has very much still kept its mockumentary feel, its fake reality show feel with the talking heads and the camera movements and stuff. So for them to then do this graphic of Margie disappearing, it was very odd, very weird, and it had no explanation because, like, was this child even real? Like, I honestly don't understand. But overall, the writing for the season was very good. It is one of my favourite seasons. The dancing was really strong, the plot's strong, and I can watch season 3 like again, and I don't really get bored as much as I do with some seasons. So yeah, season 3, second place. So in third place, we then have season 2. So things that I liked about season 2 was that there was good consistency, continuity, that's what it is. Daniel had an injury in season 1, and it did carry out through season 2, how everyone was kind of like hesitant at first, like, oh, are you better now, Daniel? And Miss Kate was very walking on eggshells with him and didn't really want to treat him like he was better, even though he was.
Is there anything I can help with, Kate? Did you want me to help with the J-Church?
Actually, Daniel, I would love it if you just rested your ankle. Okay, we need you to be ready for nationals.
I liked this because it is what an injury would be. Like, for example, if someone's injured in my dance class and then the next week they're not wearing, I don't know, their cast or something, I'll still say take it easy, and I'll not have them do the most out of everything. Like, I want them to gradually get back into it. It doesn't just go and then everything's back to normal. Do you know what I mean? So I really liked this. I do think Miss Kate kind of babied him a little bit though, because it did start to annoy me how she was just overlooking him and blaming it on his injury. But I did like how it was still an issue. I also liked how quickly the new characters fitted onto the team. So obviously there was a big shake-up with how the Next Step did the challenge. People like Stephanie and Tiffany got kicked off, and Amanda and Tally were put on. And I feel like season 2's A Troop really blended together nicely, and it didn't have a divide, and it didn't have a separation between the new and old characters. They were very much a troop, and I liked that. Once again, we also saw B Troop and J Troop frequently, and I like this because it makes the show not boring, and it also makes it a more well-rounded show because it seems more like a dance studio rather than just one dance class. We had a lot of unexpected storylines in season 2, so we had Tiffany and Stephanie getting kicked off, which I think was a very brave move because Tiffany and Stephanie were obviously big characters in season 1. So I like this because it was realistic because they weren't the strongest dancers, even though I did really like Tiffany's audition. I just appreciated that they took a risk by doing that, and it was a risk that paid off. Amanda's plot as well was also good, how she was a double agent for Elite, because I don't think anyone really saw that coming. Like, you had an inkling that there might be something wrong, but it was really carried out well. Things like Emily and Riley trying to get on her side and trick her, but it not working, and Amanda eventually revealing that she was still on Elite, and then at the end joining the next step again. It just all worked out well, and it wasn't just totally predictable. With the whole Giley drama, I really liked about season 2 that Beth wasn't shown as a bad guy, even though she did have this thing for James throughout season 1 and 2, and she kissed him while he was in a relationship. I liked that Beth was the one that helped James ultimately win Riley back by giving him that 4-leaf clover, because it showed that Beth had changed and that she ultimately just wanted James to be happy. And it also made me feel sad for her, because she does love James and James just doesn't love her back. I just liked how they didn't make people look bad, and they showed people in a well-rounded way in season 2. And just like season 1, we had lots of different locations in season 2. So we had the mall, Parkour Alley, the trio competition location. Where else did we have? Obviously we had the Nationals location. It was just not just in Studio A. But then we have to talk about the cons. I found Eldon really, really stupid this season. I really didn't like his character at all, and even though that is my opinion that I didn't like him, I just felt like it was bad writing how they wrote him. So things like how he just really mistreated Michelle and just ignored her, and thought that this whole dance battle with Hunter was actually a reasonable reason to break up with his girlfriend, was just ridiculous for me. Like, that doesn't happen in real life, does it? And I at least hope it doesn't. If you are debating breaking up with your significant other because you've lost a dance battle, don't do it. As well as Eldon's personality, I just felt like this season had a few weaker episodes than season 3 did. I thought season 3 overall was quite strong, and each episode kind of had some relevance in a way. But season 2, there was some episodes that really dragged out. So then we move on to 4th place, and in 4th place I'm putting season 6. So next is season 6 in my rankings, and one thing I really liked about season 6 was how quickly the new A-Troopers blended with the old ones. And obviously Miss Angela brought in these 3 new dancers, Finn, Summer and Kenzie, and Lily. And it didn't seem like the same way when Elite and the Next Step merged. They kind of stayed separate for a while. Straight away they found the things that were in common with them both, and it did really feel like a family again. It kind of mirrored season 1, because you know, you had these B troopers in season 1 that came up to season 1, like West and Daniel and Chloe, and they immediately felt like they were A troopers. The characters really did have depth in season 6, and I think pretty much everybody had something about them that made them, you know, not just a background character. I think particularly for Emily and Michelle, they had such good screen time and lines, and they really had a good dynamic between them. Particular storylines I enjoyed from season 6 were Piper's storyline with her anxiety. Like how I spoke about season 3, how it kind of matured as the audience did, I felt like season 6 addressed some things that were relatable for the older viewers that had been with the show since season 1, so me for example. So Piper had her anxiety, no one wanted to move on, well, was debating whether to move on now that he was 18. Obviously Rochelle was getting to that age as well. Michelle was questioning whether to leave. Like the competitive nature between the dancers, which is quite similar to what the show was originally about, like, you know, wanting to be frontline and centre. So those kind of things really brought the show back to life for me, and it gave it some of the original TNS spirit. I think the best part of season 6, to be honest, was Noah's storyline as a whole. Like, just seeing his growth, because obviously he's been in the show since season 1 when he was just this teeny tiny little boy. It was really well done, and it lasted the whole season really. Like, we saw him be this really strong dance captain, have to make these tough decisions. Then we saw him being kicked off the team. Then we saw him rejoining the team. Then we saw him leaving. And I think Noah's farewell was actually the most emotional thing I've ever seen on the show, and Michelle's farewell comes second to it, but Noah's was just amazing. Then we move on to our cons, and for season 6, one thing I didn't like was Rochelle's injury miraculously disappearing. I know obviously it wasn't a proper injury, like she didn't break her hip or anything, she just had snapping hip syndrome, which is basically like just a overuse injury. The same way I spoke about Daniel's injury, how I liked how it continued into season 2 and it was still like on Miss Kate's mind that she was aware of. I would have liked a few people, or maybe even Rochelle herself, to be doing things related to her injury, because it took her out of like the end of season 5 like previously, so it needed to kind of have some relevance again. Even though it did in the off season, I would have liked to see it in season 6. I also felt that Noah and Jackie breaking up in season 6 was random and unnecessary. I don't think they needed to do it really. They could have just had them still be together and Noah leave. Like, that's what happens in life. People get new jobs and move on and whatever. They could still be a couple. They just should have kept them together. Also relating to Noah, I think his storyline with Rochelle in the No Shell episode came out of nowhere. Like, it was a really great episode, it was really beautiful and it was very emotional, but Noah and Rochelle had barely even interacted in season 6, and I think they needed a lot more build up. Even if they had Rochelle and Noah reminiscing over old times a few episodes before or something, to really have Rochelle have that kind of emotional outburst and the way she was acting in that episode, because it just didn't, I don't know, there was something missing. Then in 5th place, we are having season 5. So number 5 is in at number 5. So it wasn't the worst season, but it also wasn't the best. It was just pretty bland and neutral for me. Which kind of fits because the cafe is called Neutral Grounds for this season. I really liked the introduction of Jackie this season because she was briefly talked about in season 4. I liked how it carried over. I think that's a running theme. I like when there's continuancy between the seasons and we get relevant like references back to old episodes. So I liked how Jackie was in this season. I also liked how Rochelle had more of a role, because I felt in season 4 she was very overlooked considering how much it had been pressed on her character in previous seasons that she wanted to make A Troop and she really wanted to be dance captain. I felt like season 4 didn't really give her justice for this, so I liked how she had more of a role in season 5. You know, she was dance captain for a short while, she had friends, and we saw this kind of other side to Rochelle. I also liked how Kingston joined the studio and he never taken a dance class. It really just brought it back to the basics and was like, there are people out in the world that dance but don't go to a professional studio or whatever. So I liked the implementation of this. I also liked how Miss Kate was back in this season compared to season 4, and like, obviously it was good that Emily and Michelle were running the 2 separate troops, but I liked how Miss Kate had the overruling, like, deciding, judging factor or whatever. I feel like she should have definitely been in season 4 more and just done that with Riley. I also really enjoyed how they had to make a regionals video in season 5 because it kept it fresh and it didn't just repeat the same old storyline we get. So I do like when new things happen, but for me it has to make sense and it has to be done in the right way. I personally really love video dance, so, you know, dance on camera, dance videos, things like that. So it really played into my like passions, I guess, that they had to make a regionals video, and it was an outstanding video. It's one of my favourites things that the Next Step's probably done. It was just really well done. I loved it. One thing I liked about season 5 as well was how the lesser known characters and the newer ones had a bit of depth to them, and they interacted a lot more with the current and the older A Troop members. So Piper was friends with Josh, Zara and Jackie were friends, and obviously they are quite new, but Zara was already at the Next Step supposedly, and Jackie was with Noah, and you know, they all kind of interacted more. Oh, also Lola was friends with Rochelle, so they did blend. So the cons of season 5, I feel like this season kind of lost its original energy that it had in season 1. So having the 2 troops for me kind of dragged out the storyline a bit, and it didn't really feel like the next step. It was mostly having these 2 troops and having the feud between Emily and Michelle reignited. I think a better thing for them to have done in season 5 was maybe have the 1 troop and have Emily lead it and have Michelle be like, wow, Emily's studio head now and I'm still just a dancer, so maybe she becomes a bit more rebellious, because in season 4 we saw a more rebellious and angsty Michelle. If she was that kind of person in season 5 and kind of rebelling against what Emily wants and kind of thinking, well, I don't answer to Emily, I never have, that kind of would have worked it better. You know, I just feel like it would have worked if there was still 1 troop. So obviously the second half of season 5 worked a lot better than the first half for me. I'm going to have to keep referencing season 4 because season 5 obviously came after it. But in season 4, Wes said that he was leaving the Next Step to travel more. And in season 5, he was back at the Next Step. So I didn't like this. I felt like he should have just gone. They should have given him a good farewell and just like let him leave. I also felt like there needs to be an overall bigger plot, because it did very much feel like just a transition season between 4 and 6. You wouldn't need to watch season 5 in order to get season 4 and 6 like up to date with them. So yeah, season 5 was very weak in my opinion in terms of the plot. Because I really enjoyed the regionals video, I think they should have really kind of delved into it a little bit deeper. So they could have had, because Kingston is a YouTuber who uploads videos, they could have had Kingston experiment with different angles and really maybe putting the dancers on his channel and having them experiment with editing and cameras and getting them involved in the whole video dance side of things, because it is a really interesting part of the industry. They could have learned a bit more about that side of the industry and gone into making this video really knowledgeable angle and knowing what angles work and what lighting is best, what costumes are good on camera, and just things like that. I feel like it could have been explored more rather than just be seen as, oh yeah, we're just gonna film this now. Who even filmed that video? We don't know. Who did the lighting? Who edited it together? It was just like they danced and then miraculously it was edited together. And second to last, I have season 4. So I'm going to put season 4 in 6th place, I'm afraid, which leaves one gap for the worst, which means that I've got to basically put season 7 in there somewhere and judge it based on how well it's going so far. So we'll rearrange the order in a second, but yeah, season 4 is definitely my least favourite season, and here are my reasons why. First of all, let's talk about the good things about season 4, because there are a fair few good things that I did enjoy. So first, I really liked that the original A-Troopers left in this season, even though that sounds quite morbid and like, oh, why would you want to get rid of them? I liked that they didn't keep them going and completely exhaust their characters and get us bored of them. I think most of them left at the right time. So we had Giselle, Stephanie, James, Alden, West and Max all leave and move on. In the very first episodes, they said that we're going and they have plans for the future. A big part of season 4 for me, and probably my favourite character of the season, was Michelle, and I really enjoyed Michelle's personality this season. I think it made sense, even though some people say it was completely out of character for her. I think it made sense that she came back very focused on herself and a little bit mean to some people and very down to earth and just wanting to be the best dancer she could possibly be. I think that makes sense for Michelle because obviously she was really overlooked in season 3. She didn't get to dance in any dances at internationals. She really needs to prove herself this season, so I think it made perfect sense that she'd come back a little bit rebellious and a little bit angsty.
If we're not ready, if we just want to play nice, the other studios will eat us alive.
I really like the scenes where she was realising that she was the only thing in her way and stopping her from being the best dancer she could be, so the ones with Alfie. But this kind of ties into a con that I've got for the season. I didn't like how she was dancing with herself and there was actually another Michelle there. I feel like it just didn't make sense for the genre of the show because it was meant to be a mockumentary. That obviously isn't going to happen in real life. I'm not going to look over to my side and see another Alicia sitting there. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I feel like they should have just had her do a solo, a really sad one, and then at the end she could have said the same things like, I'm the only person stopping me, I'm gonna be the best version of myself I could be. I also liked Michelle when she found out about Ralphie. She didn't just straight away jump to Riley's defence. She told Riley what she thought of her and she was angry. And I feel like this was just a very natural and realistic reaction because ultimately if your friend's been in a relationship with someone for years and years and then you find out they've cheated on them, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm sure it was just a mistake. You would be angry. You'd be like, girl, what you doing?
It just happened.
How does something like that just happen? Your lips touching someone else's lips, that doesn't just happen. Especially when you have a boyfriend. And do you have any idea what this is gonna do to James? Do you ever think about anyone else other than yourself? It's like I don't even know who you are anymore.
So I was glad that Michelle reacted this way, and I feel like her character overall was just written very well this season. Another character I'm glad got a good storyline was Noah.
You were right about my back. I tried rehearsing and it's much worse than I thought.
But I just don't think his storyline was written and executed very well. So I'm glad that Noah was in the spotlight because obviously in season 3 he just joined A-Troop and he was really getting into the team and becoming a pivotal part of it and establishing himself. So season 4 made sense for him to be seen as this main guy on A-Troop. I also liked LaTroy's storyline with his dad because it tied into how in season 3 Michelle had the storyline about her parents' divorce. So LaTroy's was kind of an advancement on that because he wanted to be with his dad, but his dad didn't really care for him anymore and just didn't want anything to do with him.
He's just using you. How do you not see it? Your dad always disappoints you. And you keep falling for it all over again, every single time.
The main thing I enjoyed about the whole Ralphie situation was James. I feel like James was the most natural and the most realistic person. He acted very much in character, so he didn't just completely blow up at Riley and Alfie straight away. He was like, okay, I'm gonna walk out of here, you're gonna make up your mind and things like that. I liked the maturity of the season.
I want to spend time with him.
No, you do your thing. And for future reference, the next time you want to talk to me about these things, you don't need to call me in. No, you can text me. Yeah. Don't waste my time.
I also found the regional scenes very entertaining, even though the dances and the costumes weren't my favourites. I liked how Michelle was suffering from exhaustion and fainted on stage. It's a very realistic thing to happen, especially because she was working so hard and she set such a high expectation level for herself.
I was an alternate at internationals. I didn't get to dance. I didn't dance at the qualifiers, and I didn't get to do my solo. This trio needs to be perfect.
So yeah, it was a very entertaining season for the most part. Like, there was a huge amount of drama. There was loads of character plots and stuff. But I feel like it was only entertaining because I was literally just wondering what on earth could happen next and how could this story possibly progress anymore. Let's get on to the cons of why I did not like season 4. So first of all, season 4 brought us the 0% Club, which is basically an alternate version of the e-girls. So it was a nicer, friendlier version of girls who just wanted the best for each other. And I feel like the concept was there, but it just really wasn't strong enough. I feel like the girls definitely should have just developed their friendships and not put a label on it, because literally calling it the 0% Club made it cringy and made it unrealistic, because people don't do that anymore. Like, teenagers don't make clubs, or at least the typical teenager doesn't, like the relatable teenager doesn't. All of the scenes where the 0% girls were having meetings or trying to do pranks and stuff just weren't funny to me. They weren't entertaining, they were boring. Next, I really want to talk about the bangers and mashups competition that the boys went to, so Elden, James and West. First of all, I don't think Elden, James and West should have even been in season 4 as much as they were, because they had this whole thing about them leaving, and then ultimately we still saw them anyway because they were in the season so much. So I just feel like it was a complete waste to say that, oh, I'm leaving the next step, but this isn't the end, and then we just see them the next episode. Do you know what I mean? The show heavily relied on the original characters in order to keep it going and to make it relevant and to keep the viewers. It should have been able to stand on its own 2 feet with these new A-Troopers, but they didn't give the new A-Troopers enough depth or enough of a storyline for them to be able to be liked by the viewers. So they needed to bring the old characters in because we naturally like them already in order to keep the viewers. I think in particular because Wes said he really wanted to travel the world and he only really went to England because he was back in season 5, made no sense at all, and he should have just gone. Like, let Wes travel the world. I think the same goes for Emily and Ella coming back, because obviously it makes sense for Riley to call her sister when she needs help and to call Ella because Ella's already in England to talk to James, but like, it just feels like they relied too much on the old characters and they didn't give enough airtime to the new ones who were establishing themselves for us to like them.
Ella? Wait a minute. Ella?
I felt that Nomanda was very odd this season, and I know some people really like Noah and Amanda's relationship, including my boyfriend, but I just felt like it was out of character for Amanda. Even the clothes she was wearing, it seemed like she'd really mellowed and she just wasn't the same kind of girl. And yeah, people change, but I don't think people change that much. Amanda's never been a softy person. She's never been a real girly girl. She's always been edgy and angsty. I didn't like their relationship. I felt like they were great as friends and it was nice to see them both be warm to each other, but not romantically. I would have really loved Amanda to thrive in the same way Michelle did, so them both really focusing on themselves and being the best they could be, because obviously Amanda was overlooked in season 3 too, so I would have loved Michelle and Amanda to team up and be these really attitude, rebellious, angsty girls who really want to win regionals and they're going to be the best that they could be. Another thing that I didn't like about season 4 was the fact that Alfie, Prince Alfred, was a prince. It's just completely unnecessary and unrealistic. Like, why? Because I think him liking Riley was a big enough storyline that he didn't need to be a prince as well as that. Like, a lot of people have commented saying that there isn't even a Prince of Switzerland, but I think that's because if there literally was, then they wouldn't be allowed to call him the Prince of Switzerland because there'd already be one. There'd probably be a lot of legalities surrounding that. Like, if they had a character on the show called the Queen of England, the Queen of England would probably, you know, not be happy about that because it's imitation. So yeah, that's probably why there isn't actually a Prince of Switzerland. No, that's probably why they had a prince be the prince of somewhere that doesn't even have a prince in real life. That's why. I would have loved for Alfie to have a bit more depth to his character, basically. Don't worry, there's even more points. Noah's injury was a good storyline because we've seen him, like, grow up on the show, but it wasn't done well enough. Like, if you have a spinal operation, you cannot dance a mere week after. Like, that doesn't happen. Even if they had him not be able to dance at regionals, that would have been good for his character, and it would have given him a strong start to season 5 and a reason to want to do regionals again, because they lost season 4. My next issue with season 4 was surrounding Dance Captain, and although I think it was perfectly fine for Michelle not to want to be Dance Captain, when they picked Rochelle, Amy and Skylar as like the nominees, Rochelle and Amy just didn't act like normal people act, and Amy has never been that stupid on the show.
Hello, my name is Amy. I want to be dance captain.
Like, if you compare season 4 Amy in the dance captain scenes to season 7 Amy, they're not even the same person. It was predictable that Skylar was going to get it. It wasn't a fair competition at all. Even Rochelle, as much as we know she wants to be dance captain, like, she has read the dance captain diary. She helped Giselle be dance captain. She'd know how to act, and even she wouldn't act like the way she did.
There are no days off. Got it? Oh, and if you miss a rehearsal, don't even bother, because you're out.
So yeah, it was just very stupid and just unrealistic. Speaking of Rochelle, I also feel like she should have had more prominence in season 4, because she'd finally made A Troop, and like, this was a big deal, and it just wasn't made a big deal on the show. We'd been like prepping her from season 2 to get onto A Troop. She'd auditioned, like 2 times already, and now she'd finally made it. It was just like, yeah, okay, now Rochelle, you're an A Trooper, you're a background character though, okay? Then we obviously have the issue of Riley as studio head, and I think it was absolutely ridiculous that Kate chose Riley to be studio head.
You are one of the most organized, diligent, and hardworking people I know.
Like, even if she is this reliable person, what qualifications does she have to run the studio, please? Other than the fact that she's reliable and get it done, girl. Like, no, it's just, it was so silly. I get why Riley agreed, because she was like, wow, I've been picked for this amazing role and I trust Miss Kate. Like, I don't blame Riley for taking it, but why would Miss Kate think that it's a good idea to leave it in the hands of a teenager?
I can't run the studio. Can I?
If they'd won regionals in season 4, we'd probably be on internationals by now in season 7, but we're still at nationals, so I don't even know what's going on anymore. To be honest, I think Miss Kate should have just stayed studio head. So if it was like the actress Brie who wanted to leave the show in season 4, that's fine. They could have just written it so that someone else came in, like an adult, not a child. But if they wrote Miss Kate out of the show, then that was a bad move on the writer's part. Another relationship we had in season 4 was Amy and LaTroy, and I also didn't like Amy and LaTroy. I felt like it was completely random and came from nowhere, and it was cringy, and the two personalities didn't match at all.
Let's do something about this.
About what?
This chemistry.
I feel like if the only plot new characters have is a romantic relationship, that's just a big cop-out. Like, we could have explored LaTroy and Amy's personalities so much more, but no, it was focused on the fact that they both liked each other, and so did Sloane. Like, it was just boring. Another issue I had with season 4 was the alternate pick, and also the person that was taken off the finals routine very last minute. So first of all, the alternate was Cassie. I don't think it should have been Cassie that was the alternate. I feel like she has been at all the rehearsals, she's really trying, she's a good dancer. Whereas we had LaTroy, who was away at a farm for how long, and also Noah, who was injured. I feel like either one of those two should have been the alternate. And then I think that Amanda being taken off the final dance was just a pure idiotic move.
So if Michelle's dancing, that means that one of us isn't, right?
Yeah, who's out? Who's not dancing?
Amanda, I'm sorry, but
Cassie should have been taken off the final dance because she was the alternate, and if not Cassie, Michelle should have just not been allowed in. Or, once again, LaTroy should have been taken off, or Noah should have been taken off because they were injured. Actually, not Noah, but LaTroy has been at the least rehearsals, and Michelle had literally just fainted. So, yeah, bad decisions all round. Overall, I just feel like there was way too much romance and not enough dancing for season 4. We had whole episodes that focused on just relationships, and the show is supposed to be about a dance troupe going to the competition. And there's also really boring episodes in my opinion, but I'm not going to discount the boring ones because that's obviously just my opinion. So I didn't like when they were filming on the little video camera, the dancers' opinions or whatever, and when they were doing Cassie's history project, things like that were just boring to me. And finally, the visuals. cameras were the thing that I didn't get. So the way that they filmed the show and also things that they did. So Michelle dancing with herself, Alfie and James having a duet, dancing with the guitar and everything. Didn't understand what was happening there. Like, they're doing a rap now, okay? And also the characters seemed self-aware to some extent because they were introducing each episode.
Previously on the next step.
Previously on the next step.
So they clearly knew the cameras were there, but that would have meant they couldn't do James and Alfie's rap and they couldn't do Michelle's dancing with herself. So it was very... And yeah, that's it for season 4. So you could clearly see why season 4 is the worst in my opinion because of all the cons we've got. So all we need to do now is put season 7 within this list somewhere. I definitely preferred season 6 to season 7 so far, I think. So I think... Did I prefer season 5? No. Okay, this is our finalised rankings. First place we have season 1. Second place is season 3. Third place season 2. Fourth place season 6. Fifth place season 7. Sixth place season 5. And the worst season was season 4. I think I am happy with this. I think. So you can leave your opinions down below. Which seasons you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy. Different things about different episodes, whatever. If you agree with this, give it a like. Actually, if you just enjoyed the video, give it a like. Make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of me, because I always get more views than I get subscribers. So some of you are watching and you're probably not subscribed. So make that red button grey and turn that bell on. And I'll see you next week, guys, for a new video.